Hello everyone, I come back to you with a cold, a new book, and some hot coffee and a cool mug. It's about rheumatism, old cures. The book today is going to be Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. It's one of my favorite books ever. I'm glad I get to reread it again, and especially having such a cool copy. I got this not too long ago, and I love the cover art on there. So we're gonna dive into this right now. I hope you enjoy. This is for his mother and in memory of his father. The quote before the story is from Plato from the Republic. It says, "Anyone who has common sense will remember that the bewilderments of the eyes are of two kinds and arise from two causes, either from coming out of the light or from going into the light, which is true of the mind's eye quite as much as of the bodily eye. And he who remembers this, when he sees anyone whose vision is perplexed and weak, will not be too ready to laugh. He will first ask whether that soul of man has come out of the brighter life, and is unable to see because unaccustomed to the dark, or having turned from darkness to the day is dazzled by excessive light. And he will count the one happy in his condition and state of being, and he will pity the other, or if he have a mind to laugh at the soul which comes from below into the light, there will be more reason in this than in the laugh which greets him who returns from about out of the light into the den." Progress Report, 1 March 3. Dr. Strauss says I should write down what I think and remember everything that happens to me from now on. I don't know why, but he says it's important, so they will see if they can use me. I hope they use me, because Miss Kinnanen says maybe they can make me smart. I want to be smart. My name is Charlie Gordon. I work in Donner's Bakery, where Mr. Donner gives me $11 a week and bread or cake if I want. I am 32 years old, and next month is my birthday. I told Dr. Strauss and Professor Niemer I can't write good, but he says it don't matter. He says I should write just like I talk, and like I write compositions in Miss Kinnanen's class at the Beekman College Center for Retarded Adults, where I go to learn 3 times a week on my time off. Dr. Strauss says to write a lot everything I think, and everything that happens to me, because I can't think anymore because I have nothing to write, so I will close her today. Yours truly, Charlie Gordon. Progress Report 2, March 4. Oh, leaky nose. Okay. Ooh. I had a test today. I think I failed it, and I think maybe now they won't use me. What happened is I went to Prof. Niemer's office on my lunchtime, like they said, and his secretary took me to a place that said psych department on the door with a long hall and a lot of little rooms with only a desk and chairs. Then a nice man was in one of the rooms, and he had some white cards with ink spilled all over them. He said, "Sit down, Charlie, and make yourself comfortable and relax." He had a white coat like a doctor, but I don't think he was no doctor, because he didn't tell me to open my mouth and say, "Ah." All he had was those white cards. His name is Bert. I forgot his last name because I don't remember so good. I don't know what he was going to do, and I was holding on tight to the chair like sometimes when I go to a dentist, only Bert ain't no dentist, neither, but he kept telling me to relax, and that gets me scared because it always means it's gonna hurt. So Bert said, "Charlie, what do you see on this card?" I saw the spilled ink, and I was very scared, even though I got my rabbit's foot in my pocket, because when I was a kid, I always failed tests in school, and I spilled ink too. I told Bert I saw ink spilled on a white card. Bert said yes, and he smiled, and that made me feel good. He kept turning all the cards, and I told him somebody spilled ink on all of them, red and black. I thought that was an easy test, but when I got up to go, Bert stopped me and said, "Now sit down, Charlie, we are not through yet. There's more we got to do with these cards." I don't understand about it, but I remember Dr. Strauss said, "Do anything the tester told me, even if it don't make no sense, because that's testing." I don't remember so good what Bert said, but I remember he wanted me to say what was in the ink. I didn't see nothing in the ink, but Bert said there was pictures there. I couldn't see no pictures. I really tried to see. I holded the card up close and then far away. Then I said, if I had my eyeglasses, I could probably see better. I usually only wear my eyeglasses in the movies or to watch TV, but I said maybe they'll help me to see the pictures in the ink. I put them on, and I said, now let me see the card again. I bet I find it now. I tried hard, but I still couldn't find the pictures. I only saw the ink. I told Bert maybe I need new glasses. He wrote something down on a paper, and I got scared of failing the test. So I told him it was a very nice picture of ink, with pretty points all around the edges, but he shook his head, so that wasn't it neither. I asked him if other people saw things in the ink, and he said yes, they imagined pictures in the ink blot. He told me the ink on the card was called ink blot. Bert is very nice, and he talks slow like Miss Kinnanen does in her class, where I go to learn reading for slow adults. He explained me it was a raw shock test. He said people see things in the ink. I said, show me where. He didn't show me, he just kept saying, think, imagine, there's something on the card. I told him I imagined an ink blot. He shook his head, so that wasn't right either. He said, what does it remind you of? Pretend it's something. I closed my eyes for a long time to pretend, and then I said, I pretend a bottle of ink spilled all over a white card. And that's when the point on his pencil broke, and then we got up and went out. I don't think I passed the raw shock test. Third progress report, March 5th. Dr. Strauss and Professor Namer said it don't matter about the ink on the cards. I told them I didn't spill the ink on them, and I couldn't see anything in the ink. They said maybe they will still use me. I told Dr. Strauss that Miss Kinnanen never gave me tests like that, only writing and reading. He said Miss Kinnanen told him I was her bestest pupil in the Beacon School for Retarded Adults, and I tried the hardest because I really want to learn. I wanted it more than people who are smarter, even than me. Dr. Strauss asked me, how come you went to the Beekman School all by yourself, Charlie? How did you find out about it? I said, I don't remember. Professor Niemer said, why did you want to learn to read and spell in the first place? I told him because all my life I wanted to be smart and not dumb, and my mom always told me to try and learn just like Miss Kinnanen tells me, but it's very hard to be smart, and even when I learn something in Miss Kinnanen's class at the school, I forget a lot. Dr. Strauss wrote some things on a piece of paper, and Professor Niemer talked to me very serious. He said, you know, Charlie, we are not so sure how this experiment will work on people because we only tried it up to now on animals. I said, that's what Miss Kinnanen told me, but I don't even care if it hurts or anything, because I'm strong and I will work hard. I want to get smart if they will let me. They said they got to get permission from my family, but my Uncle Herman, who used to take care of me, is dead, and I don't remember about my family. I don't see my mother or father or my little sister Norma for a long, long, long time. Maybe they're dead too. Dr. Strauss asked me where they used to live. I think in Brooklyn. He said they will see if maybe they can find them. I hope I don't have to write too much of these progress reports because it takes a long time and I get to sleep very late and I'm tired at work in the morning. Gimpy hollered at me because I dropped a tray full of rolls I was carrying over to the oven. They got dirty and he had to wipe them off before he put them into bake. Gimpy hollers at me all the time when I do something wrong, but he really likes me because he's my friend. Boy, if I get smart, won't he be surprised? Progress Report 4, March 6th. I had more crazy tests today in case they use me. That same place, but a different little testing room. The nice lady who gave it to me told me the name, and I asked her, how do you spell it, so I can put it down right in my progress report. Thematic apperception test. I don't know the first two words, but I know what the test means. You got to pass it or you get bad marks. This test looked easy because I could see the pictures. Only this time she didn't want me to tell what I saw in the pictures. That makes me up. I told her yesterday Bert said I should tell what I saw in the ink. She said that'll make a difference because this test is something else. Now you got to make up stories about the people in the pictures. I said, how can I tell stories about people I don't know? She said make believe, but I told her that's lies. I never tell lies anymore because when I was a kid I made lies and I always got hit. I got a picture in my wallet of me and Norma with Uncle Herman, who got me the job to be janitor at Donner's Bakery before he died. I said, I said I could make stories about them because I lived with Uncle Herman a long time, but the lady didn't want to hear about them. She said this test and the other one, the Rorschach, was for getting personality. I laughed. I told her, how can you get that thing from cards that somebody spilled ink on and photos of people you don't even know? She looked angry and took the pictures away. I don't care. I guess I failed that test too. Then I drawed some pictures for her, but I don't draw so good. Later, the other tester Bert in the white coat came back. His name is Bert Selden, and he took me to a different place on the same fourth floor in the Beekman University that said Psychology Laboratory on the door. Bert said psychology means minds and laboratory means a place where they make experiments. I thought he meant like where they made the chewing gum, but now I think it's puzzles and games because that's what we did. I couldn't work the puzzles so good because it was all broke and the pieces couldn't fit in the holes. One game was a paper with lines in all directions and lots of box. On one side it said start, and on the other end it said finish. He told me that game was amazed, and I should take the pencil and go from where it said start to where it said finish, without crossing over any of the lines. I didn't understand the amazed, and we used up a lot of papers. Then Bert said, look, I'll show you something. Let's go to the experimental lab. Maybe you'll get the idea. We went up to the 5th floor to another room with lots of cages and animals. They had monkeys and some mouses. It had a funny smell like old garbage. There was other people in white coats playing with the animals, so I thought it was like a pet store, but there wasn't no customers. Bert took a white mouse out of the cage and showed him to me. Bert said, that's Algernon, and he can do this amazed very good. Ugh. I told him, you show me how he does that. Well, do you know, he puts Algernon in a box, like a big table with a lot of twists and turns, like all kinds of walls, and a start and a finish, like the paper had. Only there was a screen over the big table, and Bert took out his clock and lifted up a sliding door, and said, let's go, Algernon, and the mouse sniffed 2 or 3 times and started to run. First he ran down one long row, and then when he saw he couldn't go no more, he came back where he started from, and he just stood there a minute, wiggling his whiskers. Then he went off in the other direction and started to run again. But it was just like he was doing the same thing Bert wanted me to do with the lines on the paper. I was laughing because I thought it was going to be a hard thing for a mouse to do. But then Algernon kept going all the way through that thing, all the right ways, till he came out where it said finish, and he made a squeak. Bert says that means he was happy because he did the thing right. Boy, I said, that's a smart mouse. Bert said, would you like to race against Algernon? I said sure, and he said he had a different kind of maze made of wood with rose scratched in it and an electric stick with a pencil, and he could fix up Algernon's maze to be the same like that one, so we could both be doing the same kind. He moved all the boards around on Algernon's table because they come apart and he couldn't put them back together. He could put them back together in different ways. And then he put the screen back on top so Algernon wouldn't jump over any rows to get to the finish. Then he gave me the electric shock stick and showed me how to put it in between the rows, and I'm not supposed to lift it off the board. Just follow the little scratches until the pencil can't move anymore, or I get a little shock. He took out his clock, and he was trying to hide it, so I tried not to look at him, and that made me very nervous. When he said go, I tried to go, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know the way to take. Then I heard Algernon squeaking from the box on the table, and his feet scratching like he was running already. I started to go, but I went in the wrong way and got stuck, and a little shock in my fingers. So I went back to the start, but every time I went a different way, I got stuck and a shock. It didn't hurt or anything, just made me jump a little, and Bert said it was to show me I did the wrong thing. I was halfway on the board when I heard Algernon squeak like he was happy again, and that means he won the race. And the other 10 times we did it over, Algernon won every time, because I couldn't find the right rows to get to where it says finish. I didn't feel bad, because I watched Algernon, and I learned how to finish the amaze, even if it takes me a long time. I didn't know mice were so smart. Itch my nose. There we go. Okay. Progress report, March 6th. Progress report 5, March 6th. They found my sister Norma, who lives with my mother in Brooklyn, and she gave permission for the operation. So they're going to use me. I'm so excited I can hardly write it down. But then Professor Niemer and Dr. Strauss had an arrangement about it first. I was sitting in Professor Niemer's office when Dr. Strauss and Bert Selden came in. Professor Niemer was worried about using me, but Dr. Strauss told him I looked like the best one they tested so far. Bert told him Miss Kinnunen recommended me from the best of all the people who she was teaching at the Center for Retarded Adults, where I go. Dr. Strauss said I had something that was very good. He said I had a good motivation. I never even knowed I had that. I felt good when he said not everybody with an IQ of 68 had that thing like I had it. I don't know what it is or where I got it, but he said Algernon had it too. Algernon's motivation is the cheese they put in his box, but it can't be only that because I didn't have no cheese this week. Professor Niemer was worried about my IQ getting too high from mine that was too low, and I would get sick from it. And Dr. Strauss told Professor Niemer something I didn't understand, so while they was talking, I wrote down some of the words in my notebook for keeping my progress reports. He said, "Harold, that's Professor Niemer's first name. I know Charlie is not what you had in mind as the first of your new breed of intellect," couldn't get the word, Superman. But most people of this low meant are host and unquote. They are usually dull and apathetic and hard to reach. Charlie has a good nature, and he's interested and eager to please. Then Professor Niemer said, "Remember, he will be the first human being ever to have his intelligence increased by surgery." Dr. Strauss said that's exactly what I meant. Where will we find another retarded adult with this tremendous motivation to learn? Look how well he has learned to read and write for his low mental age. I didn't get all the words, and they were talking too fast, but it sounded like Dr. Strauss and Bert was on my side, and Professor Niemer wasn't. Bert kept saying Alice Kinnunen feels he has an overwhelmed desire to learn. He actually begged to be used, and that's true because I wanted to be smart. Dr. Strauss got up and walked around and said, "I say we use Charlie," and Bert nodded. Professor Niemer scratched his head and rubbed his nose with his thumb and said, "Maybe you're right. We will use Charlie, but we've got to make him understand that a lot of things can go wrong with the experiment." When he said that, I got so happy and excited. I jumped up and shook his head for being so good to me. I think he got scared when I did that. He said, "Charlie, we worked on this for a long time, but only on animals like Algernon. We are sure there's no physical danger for you, but there are other things we can't tell until we try it. I want you to understand this might fail and then nothing would happen at all, or it might even succeed temporarily and leave you worse off than you are now. Do you understand what that means? If that happens, we will have to send you back to the Warren State Home to live." I said, "I don't care, because I ain't afraid of nothing. I'm very strong, and I always do good, and beside, I got my lucky rabbit's foot, and I never broke a mirror in my life. I dropped some dishes once, but that doesn't count for bad luck." Then Dr. Strauss said, "Charlie, even if this fails, you're making a great contribution to science. This experiment has been successful on a lot of animals, but it's never been tried on a human being. You will be the first." I told him, "Thanks, Doc, you won't be sorry for giving me my second chance like Miss Kinnunen says." And I mean it, like I told him. After the operation, I'm gonna try to be smart. I'm gonna try awful hard.